Hey, what's up, you guys? Massive news dump today as Dana White decides to just drop bomb after bomb after bomb on us, actually revealing 3 fights for UFC 300, and some fights being moved around, also fights being confirmed for UFC 298 in Anaheim. We're gonna go ahead and break all this down, you guys. Please like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. So like I said, we had a massive news dump, so I'm just gonna go overhead kind of the little smaller details, which are still huge, but just so we could get to that UFC 300 fight confirmations. First up, for UFC 298, we're going to be getting Ian Gary versus Jeff Neal, and of course we just found out the other day that this fight's going to be taking place in 299, so not entirely sure why they're moving it a month beforehand, but I mean, I'm not really complaining. I'm excited we're going to get to see the fight a lot sooner. I think it was kind of maybe an error by Dana White announcing it for that day. I think he actually did mean 298 in Anaheim, and by no means does this take away from UFC 299, because that card is like still incredibly stacked. And then going back to Anaheim, California, for UFC 298, we're also gonna be getting Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. And so this fight has been teased by both guys, and it was rumored to be happening. I was kind of hoping that they were gonna do Costa Chimaev and then Whittaker and Usman. If you guys did watch my video for UFC 300, those were 2 fights that I wanted to see on that card very badly. I'm not mad that we're going to be getting this fight. Of course, this is a fight that was supposed to happen before in the past. Then Paulo Costa had his whole conflict with the UFC, but I actually tend to think that Costa is in a good place with Dana White now. And so I won't say that this news came completely out of left field, just because like I said, it was being teased by both guys. But man, this fight is now very interesting given Robert Whittaker's last fight. He got destroyed by Dricus du Plessis, and Costa's coming off a year layoff. So I think this fight's going to be very interesting. For the most part, I think I've seen the MMA community backing Robert Whittaker, but I've seen a lot of guys saying Paulo Costa has a chance to run through Robert Whittaker. And so personally, I am going to back Bobby Knuckles to get it done. It's just, it is very scary knowing Robert Whittaker's chin isn't the best, but then again, I don't think that Paulo Costa has the absolute knockout power that Dricus du Plessis had. So definitely gonna be an interesting fight. I can see scenarios in my head where Paulo Costa can get it done, but then we move to UFC Mexico. We know Brandon Moreno and Amir Albazi are set to headline, but we finally got confirmation of the rumored Yair Rodriguez versus Brian Ortega 2 rematch. And man, I am very excited for this fight. I'm very happy that this is going to be taking place in Mexico. This is a very important fight for the division as well. It's set to be the co-main event, but it will be 5 rounds, man. I will be at that arena for that fight. So I'm honestly really excited that this fight's going down. Then, we also got a confirmation that March 30th, the UFC will be going to Atlantic City. Right now, the only fight, that Dana White mentioned was Manon Fiorot versus Aaron Blanchfield. With this fight confirmation, it basically confirms that we are going to be getting Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3, the trilogy. And so it is nice to see that they're setting up basically a title eliminator between Blanchfield and Fiorot. But then obviously the news we have all been waiting for, eager to see what is going to be on UFC 300. And man, I see a lot of people bashing these fights, calling them boring, hoping they're not going to be on the main card. I get it. I'm going to give you guys my personal take. But, the first fight we know is going to be Bo Nickel versus Cody Brundage.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
I did say on my video that I wanted to see Bo Nickel, fight on UFC 300, but I didn't want to see him fight, Cody Brundage. I was, speculating that they could do a fight between him and Andre Petroski. I know a lot of people are not excited of this matchup, just because, they think Cody Brundage is like bottom of the barrel, which, I guess I could agree, like he is. But, I'm not entirely mad at it. I'm glad that they're, building up Bo Nickel. I would have liked to see him take a little bit more of a challenge like Andre Petroski. You gotta assume like he's gonna run right through Cody Brundage. Then again, you know, I have my personal no gambling list, and you know, Cody Brundage is right there at the top. And every time, you know, I go for Cody Brundage, gamble on him, he always fumbles the bag. But then when I choose the other fighter, he comes out and fights like he's the #1 fighter of all time. Like, it's crazy. So I mean, who knows what's gonna happen. I mean, I think we all can predict that this is Bo Nickel all day. Then the second fight we got confirmed for UFC 300 is going to be Aljamain Sterling's featherweight debut, and it's going to be against Calvin Kattar. And once again, I see so many people, doubting Aljamain Sterling's ability. They're thinking Calvin's just going to completely wash him. Another thing that I noticed about the MMA community when it came to this announcement is that they were like, bro, why didn't you just do Aljamain versus Brian Ortega, and then you did Yair versus Calvin Kattar? And, I don't disagree. I thought those would have been banger matchups as well. I'm not gonna lie, I would have preferred to see those, but then again, with UFC Mexico, around the corner, you got to do, Brian versus Yair on that, type of card, man. And also, I'm not all that, mad about, Aljamain versus Calvin Kattar. Rob Font is like notoriously known for having no takedown defense, and if Calvin Kattar's anything like Rob Font, then this is going to be a very interesting matchup with Aljamain Sterling. I can definitely see Calvin Kattar giving Aljamain a hard time, especially on the feet. But I think if Aljo follows his typical game plan of pressuring his opponent near side the fence and then taking him down and using his jiu-jitsu, I mean, obviously his jiu-jitsu has to be levels above Calvin Kattar. It is going to be the striking where he has a lot of adversity, because Calvin to me is like one of the cleanest boxers in the whole UFC. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up for me. I like the fight for both guys, and I like it on UFC 300. I just do not want to see this on the main card, man. This has to be on the prelims. No disrespect to either guy, but UFC 300, the way that it's being hyped up, man, this has to be on the prelims. We need to be getting other, big fun fights from the UFC. And then last but certainly not least, the last matchup we have confirmed for UFC 300 will be the return of Alexander Rakic versus Yuri Prochazka. And once again, this is another fight that I hope we see on the prelims as well. I'm not mad at the fact that we're getting this fight. Obviously, Jan Blachowicz, he was supposed to fight Alexander Rakic, and we were getting all those, rumors and reports that the UFC was potentially looking to make, Yuri, step in for Alexander Rakic. I mean, those guys even had that exchange on Twitter. It was looking like they were going to put it on February's card or March's, but, we're getting it for sure in April, with 300. And, stylistically, I think the edge has to go to Alexander Rakic, even though he's been out for, 2 years. The guy does a very good job of, throwing leg kicks, hard, thunderous leg kicks, man. And, once he does get a hold of you, he can, stay there. Like, he'll kind of like backpack you or like wet blanket you and just, stay on top of you. And the thing is, he doesn't really do much with it once he does get the takedown. He kind of just holds you. And so, that's what I'm saying. Like, I do understand when people are, upset with these matchups, just because of the style. A funner fight, in my opinion, could have been, Khalil Roundtree and Rakic, or, maybe we saw Yuri versus, Johnny Walker if he were to win against, Magomed. Definitely think, those two fights would have been more, intriguing to see, but I'm not all that mad that, we're getting Yuri, to step in for Jan Blachowicz. I think for Rakic, this could be a massive win, to take, 2 years off, because of injuries, come back and, beat Yuri Prochazka. It definitely puts him, in title contention for sure. And then, for Yuri Prochazka, this would be a very good bounce back win, to put him right back to where he was. But, like I said, I'm excited for these matchups. I'm not going to be complaining about them all that much, because these are definitely fights that I'm going to tune in for and watch. But, for the standard that we have, set for UFC 300, and, for the standard that Dana White has set, I get why people, could be not as excited for these matchups stylistically. I think the name value is definitely there, but I think the styles in which, you know, the fighters fight, I can understand and see why fans are a little bit let down. And, you know, really the question is, you know, are we going to see Aljo, Cater, Yuri, and Rakic all in the main card? I mean, that takes away already 2 spots, you know, from the 5 from the main card. So it's like, what else is going to be on the main card? You know, I really hope that these are on the prelims. But yeah, you guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below and comment down below your guys' thoughts on, you know, UFC 300. And also, what do you guys think about Paulo Costa versus Robert Whittaker? What type of fights do you guys want to see for this new year? Please, you guys, like the video, comment down below, and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.